Hello, screenwriters and writers. Welcome to the Script Mistress podcast, where we dive into the world of screenwriting and other things. I am your host, Amber Bosworth, and in this episode, we have an exclusive interview with Jennifer Manocherian. Now, if you don't know who she is, Jennifer is a Tony-winning producer. She's won awards for Warhorse, August, Osage County, Spring Awakening, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and several others, over 25 other shows on Broadway. She's a film writer and producer. She's a screenwriting teacher. She's a playwright-librettist. She has such playwright ones that you can find, Mary Harry, Cockroaches, and Cologne. Now, just a little bit of business to keep yourself informed of my podcasts, events, and challenges. Please sure to get on my mailing list at thescriptmistress.com. Additionally, you can find this entire episode on video at thescriptmistress.com/scene 48, 48, where you'll also find a free download that I've created just for you guys. You can sign up for that and download it completely for free. And I'll talk about that at the end of the episode. And I also have my own YouTube channel, the Script Mistress YouTube channel, where you can catch this as well. I have the link for that in the show notes and on the page on scene 48. You'll get all the information about Jennifer there as well, so you can learn everything you need to know about her after this episode, because I know you're going to want to know more. I know I did. Now, I had the immense pleasure and joy of meeting Jennifer for the first time and interviewing her earlier this week. It was incredible. So Jennifer Manocherian has been a Broadway and off-Broadway theater producer for over 30 years. She wrote the book of a musical, Mary Harry, with composer Dan Martin and Michael Belio, which had a production at the York Theater in New York, then was filmed in a sound studio for online streaming. And you can find that on Amazon Prime. And again, I'll have all the websites and everything where you can check these out after the episode if you'd like. And then the same team wrote a short musical for streaming that will be available shortly. I think it is off of her website, and I'll get that to you as well. She wrote and produced the film Family Blues, also on Amazon Prime Video, and has another film planned for filming fairly soon. I think she did finish that. I think this is a little bit old of a bio, but I just wanted to give you kind of a background. Aside from other writing projects, she teaches introductory screenwriting at the Sarah Lawrence Writing Institute. Now, prior to her career as a producer, she was a family therapist and a divorce mediator. Jennifer serves on the board of New York Stage and Film, a nonprofit devoted to developing new works. And she has transitioned into being a published author. Her new book, Alphabet, is out now, and you can get that on Amazon. Now, while she is promoting her book, she got to sit down with me and kind of go over screenwriting and how her life has really helped shape her into the writer that she is today. I really had a great time learning from her and her kind of explaining with her time as a family therapist how important character is and how important the relationships are in your writing. So please, I won't speak any more about it. Please catch the interview now, and I'll be right back. That is okay. Well, welcome to my little podcast, the Script Mistress podcast. So here we kind of work a little bit more with beginning screenwriters. So it's really great to have you here on our podcast. And I, taking a look at your body of work and everything that you've done, it's been really great to kind of get to know you a little bit.
Thank you.
Yes. So I kind of just want to, if you want to do
who's your audience?
My audience all over the entire globe. I run a nice little screenwriting competition, a monthly short screenwriting competition for writers. And I kind of do this to kind of help people kind of like you, where you've bounced from medium to medium, producer, film writer, theater production, all of that, into writing novels. A lot of my writers have gone from writing prose to trying screenwriting, and I just provide a safe space for that for them.
Are you a teacher?
Yes, I'm also a teacher. Yes.
And do you read full-length scripts? Is that what you're doing?
Right
now,
are
they just short film, or what exactly are people sending you?
Right now I get short. I do, it's even just a 5-page short script
Okay.
for people to get used to the formatting, to how screenwriting works. But I also do a little bit bigger ones as well. And I'm hoping, because theater is actually my first love. I've been acting in community theater since I was 10 years old. So theater has always been my first love. So I'm hoping that is going to be something later where I incorporate playwriting, because I've had a couple shows written as well, not as big, but that have been produced. So
Well, that's great. Well, if you're writing a 5-minute short or a 20-minute short or a full feature,
mhm,
some of the elements are the same. I
mhm.
mean, you have to have a little character arc, a plot arc, that something has to happen and be resolved.
Exactly. And that's what I try to teach through. I provide feedback and like a short synopsis of what I thought, a coverage, if you will,
Mhm.
for their scripts to kind of help them. But very beginning screenwriters, that has really helped a lot. I've been doing this for about 4 years now. Mhm.
Great.
Yes. Yes. So can we just have like a quick, I don't, as quick as you want, a rundown of some of the things that you've done that have brought you to where you are today?
Well, I'd be happy to do that, but since your audience is specifically people who want to be screenwriters, right?
Yes.
So to the extent, I mean, one of the things that I've done most recently, and I mean, I've had a lot of chapters. I think of life as chapters, and there's been many chapters, and hopefully there'll be a couple more. Don't know how many more, but most recently, what I did was write a novel, and
Mhm,
and that, having been also a screenwriter, was a challenge. And
mhm.
so maybe I can talk a little bit about the challenge between people who may come to you who write in a narrative form, or poets or whatever, and want to do
Yeah.
screenplays.
Mhm.
It's the craft is quite different, and how you do it is quite different. But and I've done the things that are really relevant. Well, I mean, there are things that are relevant that are just in my life, which I
Mhm.
think is true for everybody. You have a family, you learn about relationships, you learn about personalities. All of those things are part of character building, which is, to me, the building block of anything you do in the arts that's going to be successful. So I've, I have 5 children. They're all obviously adult. In fact, I found out on Thanksgiving I am to be a great grandmother.
Oh,
So,
congratulations.
uh, so I have a lot of kids, a lot of grandchildren, and part of whatever I do is kind of a backlog. That's kind of
Mhm,
just dealing with relationships and all the ups and downs that they all require. That's something that's just part of being a human being, that
mhm.
everybody who wants to write brings with them.
Yes.
And then there's things that are more specifically in terms of fields that I may have been in that have also been helpful. For example, for a period of time, I did training, and I was a family therapist. I also did, for a short time, I was teaching family therapy as well as doing divorce mediation. So once again, I was in a field that's really dealing with relationships and conflict resolution, helping to find solutions. All of that, you can say, adds to any writing you want to do.
Mhm.
Um, then I kind of leaped, took a huge giant leap off of a I don't know what um, into being a theater producer. I don't do things halfway. So at the time I chose to do that, I figured I'm just going to take the plunge, because somehow all my life it's like I've been kind of bitten by the entertainment, the arts bug.
Mhm.
So when an opportunity came to me, I took it, and I kind of went with it. And theater's, well, you say that's what you hope to eventually land. Theater's very hard. It's very hard, at least from a producing standpoint. It's very hard to be successful.
Yeah.
Theater is just up against so many odds. But anyway, I've produced in theater for a long time. This is since the mid 80s. So I've had there's many productions I've been a part of. And again, that you learn about over time. Well, I have a producer head, but you also learn from a writing point of view, um, about story structure. You know, you play, you can read you can read a play that's going to have, let's say, Hugh Jackman in it. You almost don't care what it is because it's going to work. It's going to sell.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're reading plays and anything you do, you know, you're either going to like it or not like it, and you're going to have to just a lot of plays. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to be critical, but I saw a play recently that was so much fun. Where do you live?
I live in South Dakota.
Oh, well, this isn't going to help you then.
But we have everybody's everywhere. All my writers, I have some in England and Australia.
No, I just wondered if you would be in New York and seeing the theater. It's just, it's a musical and it's so damn much fun. Excuse my language. But then the second act just doesn't measure, and that happens a lot. So so as a producer, you have to make, you know, you make calculated decisions. Is this something, you know, is it going to overcome that, or is this a play that is going to be totally review dependent? Anyway, this is not for producer heads, so let me go back to the writing part. But my years of producing served me as well. But I had a very strong need to create. It's in everything in my life. I do a lot of knitting. I cook. I like doing something with an end product that I can feel good about and that I can work on. So I've always been writing, and I wrote a screenplay in the 1990s, and I actually wrote it with my son. And I produced it. He didn't want to he had kind of had his fill of it. And it's called Family Blues. It's on Amazon Video. And it was an interesting, I mean, it's always a learning curve. The fact of the matter, I was really learning as you go. I didn't have technique. And in fact, what happened with that project was the director we got sat us down in we got somebody's apartment in the city. And for 2 weeks, every day, we worked on that script and made changes. And it was like script writing. I don't know what level it would be, maybe 101. I don't know. but we had to learn how every scene has to move the story forward. Yes. The character arcs, how nothing is gratuitous. I mean, there was so much we had done that we just really were bumbling, and it kind of got it into the shape of being a film. And then we made it, which has challenges of its own. I mean, when you see whatever you see on film is probably not the script that the people came in with. A lot shifts in the editing room scenes. You may have done a scene where the actor was sick and didn't do the right scene properly. You have to get rid of that scene. It's really interesting in screenwriting because it's just not what's necessarily on the page. Scenes can be shifted around. There's just a lot that can change. But it was something that was exhausting. I've had 5 kids. I don't think I've ever been as tired as I was when I made that movie, because I was on the set every single moment of the time, and it was amazing. And the fact is, I just made another one this year in May. We did it virtually. Our script went in the night before the SAG strike and the Writers Guild strike. The Writers Guild strike, not the SAG strike. Yeah. And that was something that I've been working on for years. And this has been a whole other learning experience, and it's been amazing. But I had, that was a script that was co-written. I mean, it was optioned from a book. I optioned a book that I actually listened to it on Audible. I didn't read it, but somehow I felt like there was such a story within it. And it was interesting because that was in 2014, which was well before the Me Too movement. And all of a sudden things were, it's the story of a young boy, and it took place in Scotland, the original book. And this young kid lives in his family with his mom, his dad's out of work. His grandmother lives with them. They're struggling financially, and something happens to the mother. The boy doesn't know what it is, and she doesn't want to talk about it. And it's the impact of some kind of a violent trauma, not only just in the family, but on the community, the reverberation and how it affects everybody. Because when you live in a small town like this was taking place in the book, it was in a little island in Scotland. In the movie where we opened it up and we did it in the United States. Sorry, I just turned off the light. I don't know. We did it in the United States, and it's the same in a town of 3,000. So you get this feeling that everybody knows everybody's business. And when you're holding on to a secret, or a secret that potentially could be explosive and could be harmful to other people, it has a reverb, and it's about how the impact on everybody, and it's about healing. And so anyway, but when I read this book, I was just struck by it, and I got involved with it. And the writer of it was wonderful, Lisa O'Donnell. She's a wonderful writer, and she was initially did a couple of treatments, but we decided to place it here, and her voice was just too. It really required, I think. I mean, not that I have a Minnesota voice, but it required, I think, an American sensibility. So I wrote many, many drafts of it. I mean, that's what another thing your audience needs to know is that your first draft is just the beginning of a long road.
Yes.
You write, you rewrite, you get people to read it, you get people to listen to it, you hear it yourself, you have people read it. I mean, there's nothing better than doing a reading. And the screenplay that I've done, that we did this year, called Boundary Waters. It'll come out next year, I hope. Yes. We're doing the festival route. It's not quite finished. In fact, this week they're recording the score in London, and which will be very exciting. But it's just a very long road. It's a long road, and you just have to hear it. And so one of the things that I did, particularly having been in theater, I had access to people, and I did a few readings of it, where I would bring actors in. And even though listening to a play in a reading is much easier way to see what you've got than a movie, but even with a movie, particularly if you have good actors who are smart and kind of understand who they're playing, you can get so much good feedback and go back to the drawing board and keep working on it and keep working on it. And then finally, I felt it was ready to get a director, and it took us quite a while to get the right person, but boy, did we get lucky. Our director's name is Tessa Blake, and she's phenomenal. And Tessa did her own pass on it. She did more than the pass. She did her own version of it, which is pretty standard. And she really placed it from the point of view of the boy, the 12-year-old boy. And we have an extraordinary young actor playing that role. I mean, I feel like he's he's such a talent. His name's Etienne Kalici, K-E-L-I-C-I, and he's a Canadian actor, and he's just amazing. He's in every take in the movie. And there's a bunch of kids. So it's about childhood. It's about growing up. It's coming of age. They play spin the bottle. I mean, there's a lot of it's not just heavy duty trauma, but there is trauma in it. And that's part of the story too.
Well, and that's life. That's you need those areas and the ups and downs and the hilarity a little bit, not hilarity, but the laughs to kind of ease.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know why. Just as we were talking this minute, I was thinking of when some young person I knew had died, and one of my kids had come with me to wish the family well, and they heard laughter, and my kids, should people be laughing? And it's throughout life. There's got to be humor and levity, and then you go back. It's like my husband, his father died when he was 11, and the milkman, he was in Iran, and the milkman came to deliver the milk, and he said to his mother, "Do we still get milk?" Life goes on.
Yes, it does, because it's a part of life. And even trauma, we all have a little bit of trauma, just in different degrees. And to shine a light on that, you still need those places where you can let some of that go.
Right.
Yes.
But is there anything that would be helpful to you that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what do you perceive like as the fundamental differences between like writing fiction and writing screenwriting or writing it for screen?
Well, let's just say fundamental to both to me, and it's what I really, when I teach, I really press stress is character. They've got to be live within you. They've got to be authentic. There's so many movies you'll see where the people are so superficial. I mean, there's just nothing about them feels real to me. It's just, I just can't stand that. So I feel like you live and breathe these people. I mean, I'm writing a second novel, and I have to say, the character I'm writing about is in my mind all the time. I'm just constantly trying to think about this character and what I can be doing with. So I feel like your characters, you don't start with your plot. Maybe you have some idea for a plot, and I'm not saying you can't have some idea for a story, but you also have to really then plant the characters who are in it as people who belong in that story and are real and are authentic. And I think they have to be. I mean, if I were to write about a family in China, it wouldn't be real.
Yeah.
I don't live there. I don't know the culture. It's got to be, it doesn't have to be identical to your culture, but you've got to be able to really have a sense of who these people are. So that's kind of a fundamental base. But then in terms of how you tell the story of these characters, it's dialogue to me, it comes easy. And when you're doing a screenplay, all right, you're doing a screenplay and you're writing a scene maybe it could be half a page, it could be 3 pages. It's not going to be 10 pages.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty short. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to set up the scene somehow with some kind of a storyline, whatever, it's the narrative thing. It's going to be, this is where it's taking place, this is the time of day, this is what we're going to be seeing, and this is who's in the scene. I mean, that's pretty, it's obviously more filled out than that, but you're not going to be writing 10 pages about setting up that scene. The camera is going to do the work for you. So if I were to be filming you and me talking, I'd say I'm talking to a very pretty redhead with red curtains in back of her and red glasses and something that looks like a theater in back. And that's all I have to say. So you don't go into long descriptions, but then the dialogue is in a screenplay, the camera does so much for you. If you see people falling in love, that can be a touch, somebody's touch of a hand. It can be a look somebody has. It's like you have to let the camera do as much work for you as it can and not to spell it out. I mean, it's a far more subtle process. I often mention this. Well, I feel like I'm repetitive, but there is a film that I always like to use as an example for a teaching film, because in it, it's called The Confirmation, and in it, Clive Owen is in it, and before you've even met him, you almost know he's a guy who's out of luck. You hear a car trying to start. I think it's a black screen. You hear a car trying to start and trying. So somebody is not having their best day. And then you zero in on him, and he hasn't shaved, and he's in this beat up truck, and he's pretty pissed off. And how much has been done without a word of dialogue? One word. He goes to meet his ex-wife in front of a church. Okay, so we know she's going to church for some reason. That she says to him, very, very spare dialogue. And again, I'm just paraphrasing. It may be I'm not being precise, but something like, she's going away for the weekend with her new husband. So she's kind of holding on to trying to make something work. And she says, if you screw up this time, you're not going to see him again, or something like that. So how much in one sentence history do you get? That's film writing.
Yeah.
Nothing is gratuitous. Every word that's on the page has a reason. Every character who comes in for a reason. It's that movie in particular is so economical because everything in it will tie together, but it never feels artificial. It doesn't feel that way. But it's like everything is very, very well constructed screenplay, I think. I mean, you could argue that the guy is an alcoholic and they don't really deal with that, but I'm just going to say in terms of the dialogue and how it's done and how they use everything comes back in some way. It's a very good exercise in learning how a screenplay can be done. Now, a book, it's a whole other story. You have to fill it. You're the damn camera. Excuse me.
Yes,
because that was so hard for me. That really so much harder for me to be able to set the scene and to create the characters and to do everything in a way that's not on the nose. It's not with cliches. I mean, it's a much, for some people, it's a much easier process. For me, it was a real learning curve where I really had to learn how to really create character without using, to me, the tool of both the camera and dialogue, because whenever some people in my early drafts would say to me, it reads like a screenplay, or it feels like, and so then I realized, I had to be, you can't just have dialogue going on and on and on, because as people are talking, I'm talking to you and you're nodding your head, and you've got to kind of fill in the reader in terms of what's going on in that scene, not just what's being said, but what's going on. So it's quite a different craft.
Have you found it, do you find novel writing more rewarding, or I mean, which one have you enjoyed, or is it just so different that you can't really say?
Well, I love new challenges, and it's certainly been a challenge. And I'm writing a second one. I think I like it all. I mean, one of the things, the novel I wrote during COVID, because I had an office in New York City for theater, and the governor shut down all businesses that were non-essential. So I couldn't have even gone to my office for like 9 months, and then our lease was up, and I got used to working at home, so I no longer kept an office, and theater was dead. So it gave me an opportunity to do this. And I also was kind of goosing along this movie project. Nothing happens overnight, by the way. It's a long process of getting things done. So the movie was, edging along, but it wasn't, COVID was really restrictive, and it was also expensive because whoever did any filming, I mean, the process of filming during COVID was pretty challenging. Actually, I filmed a short musical during COVID.
Oh, really?
That was, I've written a couple of musicals with a composer team, and we decided to write a short musical, and it's about 15 minutes. It's really cute, actually. It's called Cockroaches Cologne, and it's on YouTube. And it's been in all sorts of festivals. I mean, this is really funny. We don't make a penny off of it, but what we learned is how you do something during pandemic is quite a, the set was done by a graphic artist in California. There were 2 actors in it. We could only have actors who were married to each other or who lived together, excuse me, so that they could be in the same space. We had a director filming them. He had to be on a mask. He had an assistant who was in another room. Everything was done virtually. We never even met the actors. We set up a studio village where my composers and we were all in a room watching all the things being, we did our costume design with the actors in their apartment, where they showed us their clothes, and it was really quite an experience. But I don't know how I got into that, but I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember what maybe even mentioned that, but really all of it. Oh, why I got into novel writing? Well, it was just an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started about 9 or 10 years ago. A friend of mine who runs a writing group, excuse me, had asked me to join. It was just every other week for 2 hours. And I thought, well, I want to see if I can write in novel form. I wanted to, not novel. I never in my life thought I'd write a novel. I mean, it was just, I thought if I can write a 500-page story, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like beyond my wildest expectations that I actually got through. But what happened was I started writing a series of stories, and both through COVID and also every year we have a weekly writing retreat where we go away. And I cannot recommend something like that any more highly to writers. If you have a group, even if it's a weekend, somewhere where you write, you let other people hear your work, you get suggestions from other people. I mean, if you really take your writing seriously, you've got to get a group.
Mm.
It's not done in the isolation of your home.
No, it's not. Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I absolutely agree.
So many, I mean, my novel, aside from the fact that all my writer friends wrote, gave me notes on it, I also had a developmental editor who gave me copious notes. So I just don't think any art form, it's going to be better served. I mean, I remember a student saying to me, well, wait, you're all giving me so much feedback. Is this really mine? Yes, it's yours. It was your idea. It's your characters. It's going to be your dialogue. You're going to take what's valuable to you, and you're going to throw away what isn't.
Exactly. And like you said earlier, where screenwriting, you can't get too attached to your beginning product, because everything changes
to anything. You learn to throw away, as they say, throw away your babies. And you have to understand it's a collaborative. If you write it, let's say you write a screenplay and it's somebody options it. You don't, once they've optioned it, they have full control over it. They can do whatever. If you're still involved, it's just because you have a very good relationship with them, or for whatever reason, they can change the time. Anything can be changed.
Yep.
So everything is collaborative, and you've got it. That's just part of it. However, conversely, in theater, they can't change anything without your permission.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's really a different process.
Yes.
And in theater, in the writer is kind of the least important person in a film, whereas in theater, the writer is very often there during the rehearsal process. They make a tremendous amount of changes. It's a very different, the writer has a very different role when something gets to the point of production, if it's a film or if it's a film theater piece.
Yes. I haven't delved too far into that. I did kind of a series where I talked about how being an actor and a director actually helps with screenwriting or theater writing, and how just having that kind of take on it can really help shape you as a writer as well. Like your experience in theater production really helping you there. So is there anything that you like to tell writers, or as you teach screenwriting as well, what is something that you look for when helping out a writer, a brand new writer?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my gosh, it's hard to my husband would tell you I'm never speechless. But what do I look for? Well, if people, I think probably, I'm not going to say that anybody can write a good screenplay, because that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of, to me, hallmarky or something. But I feel like if people really don't understand some of the things, don't kind of get some of the main things, and are not open to feedback and open to hearing things. And I'm not talking about from me. I think you could almost generalize it to anything you want to begin to do and you really care about. You have to have a humility going in. You have to know that no matter how great you think your story is, let me tell you, everybody thinks, well, that's maybe an overgeneralization. Many people think they have a story,
Mm-hmm.
and you may have a great headline. You may,
Mm-hmm.
but then tell me how it ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the middle section? You
Mm-hmm.
have a beginning, you have your setup,
Mm-hmm.
right? The middle of a movie is going to be like an hour. You got about 60 pages to fill. What's going to happen? How is all this going to work? How is it going to end? How are you going to get to the resolution?
Mm-hmm.
Endings can be very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that makes and breaks you. Yes.
so I think it's what you have to go in with is an attitude of, oh, I have such a great story, and what do you know? And I because I actually, as a teacher, I would say that probably I'm fairly critical, but I think in a because if I feel like people have the ability to do something, I'm going to push.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I want something to be as good as it can be, and I consider myself one opinion. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, I go to ask somebody else. Maybe, this is just what I think. It's very just an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the world's expert, but if somebody comes to me, that's what they're gonna get, is my opinion.
Yes. And that's what they invest in you. And I think that's what makes or breaks a good writer. I think I try with these little screenwriting challenges I get them used to hearing that criticism, and something that they throw together in just 5 days. I feel that that's really, really important, because if you can't take criticism from somebody just looking at something you've just written, how are you going to get there when you have your first draft or your second draft of something you've been working on for years? And I think it's another way of kind of letting them test the waters before doing that, to see if they can handle it.
Yeah, but when I say I'm critical, I'm not going to say, that's terrible.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
what you try to point out is, this character doesn't seem real to me, or
Yes.
why does he go into the supermarket instead of the bank? I mean, I don't know where that came from, but if you know what I mean, just kind of questioning some of the choices as to if you feel like they don't really work in
Yeah.
terms of the storyline, the overall storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can also really turn people off, which
Yes.
is something I don't want to do.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't want to kill people's dreams.
Mm-mm.
And I hope I don't. I think I may have done that once, and it stinks. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's not the way I want to be a teacher.
No, no. But it's also, I mean, teaching the craft too, and letting and making sure they understand, like you said, with like character, where everything in a screenplay has to connect. Like
Right.
everything has to have a reason. I'm working on a structure with people as well right now, and how everything, even in a 5-page script, if it's not meant to be there, get it out. Like
Right.
if it doesn't move it forward or have something to do with your character arc or anything like that, it has to get out. I think holding on to those little things, then save it for later, save it for a different story, but get it out of that script.
Yeah. And I think people, well, you have to be humble. And I think when you reach a certain point, you have to try to hear it,
Yes.
and hear it with an open mind.
Yes.
And there's plenty of stuff you can read, and I tend to be more intuitive. And I do not recommend that. It's just the way I am. There's a lot of things you can read about screenwriting that can be helpful to you, and courses you can take. And I certainly would never tell somebody not to do that. But it's, somebody I know was a master's candidate at, I think, Columbia Screenwriting. And I had seen something that they had given a submission they had given for character, what you have to know about your character. And it was about, I don't know how many pages it was, but I don't know. Somehow that to me becomes almost a turnoff. It can be, you want to, if you really understand your character, you don't have to, I mean, if your character goes into a bookstore, all right, you do want, maybe you want to know how they might dress. That's just kind of who they are. Are they going to be colorful, or, earth tones, or something like, tells you something about the character? And do they choose to read books about, autobiographies, or are they looking for porn? I mean, what are they looking for? I mean, those are little but when you get to the point of, I mean, you can go crazy with those things.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of puts people off. I just think there's a level of it where if you really feel like you really know who these characters are, you're not going to have to know what brand of toothpaste they buy. I mean,
yes,
it could just be too extreme. So, I mean, there's a part of me that, and that's maybe because it's my process, but I can't, it can't be all intellectualized. There, but there's so much you can learn about structure, and the 3 acts and all of that stuff, and what has to happen, and how scenes of a certain, when the difference between a scene and a sequence, and how scenes have to have a certain arc to them. I mean, there's a lot of things that are the craft that can be learned and should be learned, that are very helpful to the process. And I think watching a lot of movies, watching the movies you like, what do you learn from them?
Yes.
What is it you like about them? What are the people? Is it the people? Is it funny? What makes it funny? Read a screenplay read the screenplay of something you like, and see how does that compare. When you read that screenplay, does it, well, you want to read this, you can either read the screenplay that was printed after the film was made, or the before, because they'll be quite different.
Yeah.
You see how it changes. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can really be working on it that's kind of fun and entertainment ways, that is not as strictly didactic.
Yes.
But and if there's a sitcom you like, or some show you like, how do the characters get introduced?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hear like a big booming voice of somebody, and somebody's coming in who's going to be, a powerhouse. Become, as you watch things, become a student while you're watching.
Yes. Like you said, like bringing even in your family experience and the things that have happened in your life and how those brought you to where you are. And I tell it's all that experience, and seeing how you can put that on screen and making it very, very poignant and directed and very singular. Yeah.
I mean, people tend to be too on the nose. They also, it's very hard to not be on the nose, and you really, that's something you really have to learn, is to trust your audience a little and be more subtle about how you get points across, and bringing in backstory. You may have a whole story for people that maybe almost none of it belongs. It may belong in one line in the screen, like the line I just talked about. The guy says, "You screwed up before." We don't have to know. We don't have to see their backstory.
No, don't need a flashback.
We got it in that one line.
Exactly. And that's I try to work that too. New writers coming in who have done novels or poetry, that's another thing too, that there's the director there, that you have somebody interpreting your story as well, that you have to trust that director to know as well what you're putting out there. And like, you want to give a little bit, and show it, and don't just tell it, like you were saying.
Well, you have to learn, and this is a process, but to differentiate between the job of the director and the job of the writer. I mean, I think new screenwriters will things like, well, she smiled and gave him a wink. I mean, if or very, very specific. Nothing specific has to be told. Unless it has a real purpose for being there. For example, I'm looking at your red glasses, which I love, and I'm thinking, if I were writing a movie and you were a character, I would mention the red glasses, because it's part of your personality, I suspect, with your red hair. But you don't necessarily have to say. You could say somebody wears glasses. Or they go into a room that's very, very modern, all white or something. You don't have to describe the couch, everything else. And And very often he got up and walked to the door and opened it. I mean, no, you could, there's just so much that you can, that really doesn't belong in a script, but it takes a long time to figure out how to not overwrite.
Yes. Yes. That's the dreaded we hear or we see the camera, or they try to direct the camera. That's something I work really hard with the really new writers as well, to kind of.
Well, another big one is that they cannot write about something that can't be seen. For example, yes, she felt like she wanted to kill him. Well, how do I know that? What am I going to see? You can't write about internal things.
Yes. Yep. And that's I think that's one of the biggest hurdles for novel writing is making that transition where the internal, where I think even playwriting is even more, where you cannot, everything has to be seen and interpreted on the stage and can't be the internalized.
It has to be the action. The action has to show what's going on.
Yeah. What does that look like on their face? What does scared look like on them? Do they shrink or do they scream? That kind of stuff. I work really hard trying to get that out of them as well. Yes.
Well, I'm sure your students must be very happy.
I hope so. Well, any like advice for aspiring creatives as we kind of wrap this up? Like
Good
that
luck.
would like to write film.
Let's watch a lot of things. Really develop your own taste. Figure out what genre is your genre. What medium is most comfortable. What type of film are you drawn to? What type do you like to write? Watch a lot of them.
Yes. Yes. Watch a lot and experience life. And I love what you said too, is get out of the house and get with other creatives. Because you're right. I think it's so important. I talk to a lot of them about the collaboration and working together and making sure that other people see your work, that it's not just in the computer. It's not just hidden away.
Well, but you can also do that. You can create an international Zoom committee group. I mean, during COVID, I had my group writer friends and we would be on Zoom for hours a day, sometimes never talking. But we would every once in a while, catch up and see if anybody had a question, and often we might.
Yes.
And say, well, wait a minute, I just read this paragraph, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. I mean, what do you think? And we give each other very blunt notes. So you could create your writing community. If it's hard for you to do it in person, you can find it.
Yes.
You can look for writing groups in your area. You could go online and find out there are writing classes you can take that are online where there's ways of working with other people that will make you a better writer.
Yes.
And I think it's I hope they enjoy what they do, because writing can be fine. A lot of people really talk about it as struggle. I mean, I really like it. So,
and I think that comes out in your writing. When it's something you feel like you have to push and get out, I feel that really does come out in your writing. Yes.
So thank you for talking to me. I mean, I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to have you on my little podcast here.
Well, I hope somebody will want to read my book.
Yes.
And I want to Alphabetti. It's on Amazon and all different sites. And I've been told that it should be a movie, and I'm not at the moment inclined to do it. So maybe one of your students will take it on.
That would be amazing. And I will have the link for everybody in my show notes, and I have my own little landing page for every episode that I do as well, with all the notes in there too, so they can get all the information. Okay, what did you guys think of that? I'm sorry if you couldn't tell. I was kind of floating a little bit on a cloud, especially after talking with Jennifer. I'm sure you can hear my enthusiasm. I did cut out a lot of my geeking out when I talked to her after the interview. I was really excited and wanted to talk to her more about theater. As I said in the interview, theater is my first love and continues. I'm currently in a show. Which is why my hair is up, and I love being on stage, and I think it's an amazing medium, but I also love screenwriting, and I think it was amazing some of the tips that she gave in that interview. So please, I hope you really enjoyed it as much as I did. I mean, just what an awesome opportunity for this little podcast for the Script Mistress. So thank you again, Jennifer, if you are watching this. Thank you so much, and good luck with your book. Again, everybody, I have everything on my landing page, thescriptmistress.com/scene 48. All of her links and everything in the show notes. If you're watching this, you should be able to have no problem downloading that and taking a look at all of her amazing, amazing works. All right. So writing action for this week, kind of a little bit of the same. Please dive into a month of creativity with my free screenwriting prompts PDF. It's perfect for both budding and seasoned writers. This guide offers a diverse array of challenges to hone your craft, from character development, which, Jennifer, you heard right from her how important that is, to gripping climaxes. And don't lose your audience in that second or the third act. Don't lose them by the ending. Don't do that. Now, I've got you covered each week, 5 weeks, so even more than a month. This is a great time to kind of finish out the year, finish strong. Week 1, breathe life into your characters. Week 2, elevate the drama with conflict and tension. Week 3, paint your world with setting and atmosphere. Week 4, sharpen your dialogue and enrich relationships. And week 5, tie it all together with theme and resolution. This can really help with whatever project you're getting ready for, or you're working on, or something you may have on the shelf that you want to kind of dust off and play with. Now, download that now and start your journey to screenwriting success. That you can get on the scriptmistress.com/screenwriting prompts with an S, or again, you can get it at the page at thescriptmistress.com/scene 48. Now, feel free to share your thoughts on this episode. What did you think about Jennifer? Was there anything you'd like to ask her? I might still be able to ask her any questions you might have. Or you can do that on our Facebook page at Ink to Screen, or email me at amber@thescriptmistress.com to get extra help. And of course, I can't end this without mentioning the short screenplay challenge I do every month. December's coming up, you guys. So please don't forget to sign up for that. If you want to try your hand at writing a new script in 5 days, you can sign up for that at thescriptmistress.com/ink to screen. Thank you again for tuning into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Your feedback seriously means the world to me. So if you have any podcast ideas that you think could be helpful, feel free to email me at amber@thescriptmistress.com. And please don't forget to like this page and follow so you can get updates when our newest episodes come out. Until then, happy writing. Talk to you soon, you guys. Thank you.